Hi, my name is Jack Barnes, and welcome to Focus on the Pines, where we bring you news, views, and interesting people from in and around Ocean Pines. Today, we're at the Worcester County Veterans Memorial at Ocean Pines for the 2011 Memorial Day ceremony that allows us time to reflect and remember the patriotism, courage, and the sacrifices of the many brave men and women who are responsible for the freedoms we enjoy today. Now let's go to the ceremony.
The national anthem will be performed by Katrina Burton, Rachel Allman, and Hannah Gaskell from Stephen Decatur High School. The music has been arranged by Vaughn Lee.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, His truth is marching on. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and now gaze over the bombs bursting in air, give proof through the night that our flag was silver. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
Please be seated. Now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Governor of the State of Maryland, Governor Martin O'Malley.
Thanks. Thank you all very, very much. It's a great privilege, great honor to be able to join you here as we remember all of those who have given so much for us. Our veterans who are here with us, our veterans who are no longer with us. On days such as these, we remember that the most important gifts we have are not things that we can ever take for granted. Our liberty, our freedom, our ability to raise our children, our ability to worship as we please, our ability to make this world a better and safer place for them. All of those freedoms are things that our veterans have won for us generation after generation.
Must have been cold there in Russia. Never had sunlight on your face. You were content to that nation. You always walked a step behind. I will go on with my glory.
service anthems that will be performed by the Delmarva Chorus under the direction of Carol Ludwig.
Thank you. This is our favorite part of the program. We're starting with the Army. Will all of our Army veterans and present members please stand up so we can pay attention to you? There you go. Here we go.
Fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the Army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the Army goes rolling along.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, George M. Hurley. Mr. Hurley was born and raised in the Ocean City area. He served in the United States Army Signal Corps Army Security Agency from 1953 to 1956. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Salisbury State College and did his graduate work in chemistry and physics from the University of Virginia and Delaware. He taught science locally for 10 years and owned and operated his own construction firm. He also served as an Ocean City councilman and a county commissioner. He and his wife have written and published several books regarding the military history of Maryland. Mr. Hurley.
Good morning. I thank the Worcester County Veterans Memorial Foundation for the privilege of addressing you on this solemn American holiday. On this day of remembrance, we recall all of the American military personnel that have given their lives while serving. Today we are in Maryland. It is fitting to recall those from this state that have given their lives since the beginning of America. They have left us a rich legacy. Next week, 236 years ago, Massachusetts Minutemen appealed for help in Boston. Marylanders wearing deerskin and carrying long rifles were the first to respond from the south and march north. Maryland soon began training regular Continental Army units. English loyalists laughed as these first Maryland regiments marched into New York City in uniform and called them dandies. New England militiamen wore homespun wool. The Marylanders were considered country bumpkins dressed in macaroni, an Italian word for fancy clothing. The Battle of Long Island was fought in late August 1776. It was the first major battle of the Revolutionary War and almost the last. The English had 32,000 men. The Continentals numbered 10,000. The Maryland and Delaware regiments were to defend the south flank of Washington's line. That line held. The battle changed when the English general Clinton found a way to move English troops around and behind New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania militiamen. These militiamen were already fighting English-paid Germans. The Germans had long bayonets. The militia had none. After firing their muskets, their only defense was to swing their muskets. When the Clinton flanking force attacked, the untrained militia had no choice but to retreat. A Maryland regiment of 400 was ordered to turn about and charge the oncoming English and Germans. The Marylanders had bayonets. Only months before, the Committee of Safety in Annapolis, now the House of Delegates, had commended the Worcester County Committee of Observation, now the County Commissioners, for providing enough iron to forge bayonets in Baltimore. 6 times the Maryland line charged the much greater English line. And each time they charged, the English side grew stronger with reinforcements, while the Maryland regiment grew smaller with sustained casualties. Viewing the gallant attempts through a field glass, General Washington cried out, "My God, what brave fellows I will lose today." That night, 9 of the 400 Marylanders made it back to the Brooklyn defenses. But Washington had saved the army to fight another day by ferrying it across the East River to Manhattan. If the Maryland line had not held that day, the dream of an America could have ended. Later, a New York newspaper would publish a likeness of the Declaration of Independence. Across it was an arm entitled Maryland, holding a musket and bayonet. The caption read, "Saved by Maryland bayonets." Most colonies provided untrained militia for brief periods of time. Maryland fielded regular army regiments for the duration of the war in every major battle. Their units fought in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And when the campaign moved, their units marched south and fought in South Carolina, North Carolina, and finally at Yorktown, Virginia. Maryland paid a high price. At the end of the war, 2 regiments could be mustered of the original 8. The dead cannot be visited in cemeteries. Because of greater English numbers, the little army had to keep moving after every battle. Camp followers would remove the bodies and bury the dead in shallow, unmarked graves to keep spies from reporting American losses. The greatest tribute paid to them was by an officer of General Lord Cornwallis's staff, who noted the Maryland regiments were the best in the Continental Army. 82 years later, Maryland was tested in the American Civil War. Though it was a Union state, many citizens sided with the South. John Pitts, a Berlin, Maryland white man, rode with the Confederate 1st Maryland Cavalry of Virginia. The Confederate Maryland Cavalry saw action at Gettysburg. Sidney Pitts, a Berlin, Maryland black man, fought with the 9th Maryland Union Colored Infantry. The 9th Maryland saw action at Charleston, South Carolina. Descendants of both families still reside in the Berlin area. This strained dedication shown itself at the Battle of Front Royal, Virginia in 1862, when the Confederate 1st Maryland Infantry Army of Northern Virginia met head-on with the Union 1st Maryland Infantry Army of the Potomac. Brothers fought brothers. Cousins shot cousins. 119 men were lost that day. And after the battle, and since, and I quote, "So many recognized former friends, they shared rations together." 416,000 American military died in World War II. 625,000 American military died in the Civil War. The war defined American morality. In 1917, Congress authorized a new Army division. It was to be designated the 29th Infantry and was composed of mostly Marylanders and Virginians. The division had a distinctive circular shoulder patch of blue and gray, signifying that the North and the South could work together. Its 3 regiments were of historical note. The 116th was the old 2nd Virginia Stonewall Jackson Regiment. The 115th was the old 1st Maryland Infantry that had divided its loyalties during the Civil War. The 175th was the Maryland Regiment that had made almost suicidal charges at New York during 1776. In 1918, the division was deployed to France in World War I. Its casualties during the Allied Argonne offensive that forced the Germans to surrender were over 4,000. Today, the Meuse-Argonne Cemetery in France is the largest in Europe, with 14,244 Americans resting there. 1,773 are Marylanders. On June the 6th, 1944, the invasion of Europe on the French coast of Normandy began. The Maryland National Guard, the 29th, was one of 2 divisions ordered to spearhead the invasion of Omaha Beach. The beach was heavily defended by Germans. At 06:30, the 106th Virginia went ashore, and the losses were horrific. Whole companies were wiped out before ever leaving the water. Anything that could go wrong did. Support tanks sank in deep water, drowning their crews. Because of inclement weather, Air Force bombs landed miles behind the beachhead. Heavy offshore naval bombardment overshot the beach, leaving German gun emplacements untouched. By 09:30, the Maryland 115th, composed mostly of Maryland rural county men, began going ashore. A Dorchester County veteran recalled later that when his boat ramp opened, the surf was so full of bodies the water was red. By 11 o'clock, the carnage was so great that General Omar Bradley seriously considered evacuating the beach. But by lunchtime, there were many gains being reported by many unrecorded acts of valor and by Navy destroyers shelling gun emplacements at point-blank range. Give me a minute. The next day, the 29th Division's last regiment, the 175th, which was composed of mostly Baltimore City men, went ashore, and the drive inland began. 42 days later, the 29th captured the town of St. Lo and was ordered back to the beach for a brief rest. Of the 14,000 men of the original division, no battalion could muster more than one full rifle company of 300. Today, on one of the German gun emplacements overlooking Omaha Beach, there is an American memorial. Nearby, high on a bluff, 10,000 Americans rest in a cemetery named Colville-sur-Mer, village on a hill by the sea. Many are Marylanders. Liberty does not come without a cost. A grateful nation honors all of those American men and women that have given their lives while serving in battlefields around the world. These fields are right here at home. They include the skies and the oceans. They also include Pacific Islands and North Africa and Italy and Europe and Korea and Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. God bless them, and God bless America.
As Americans, we owe a great deal to this next group for the pain and the suffering that they gave in defense of our country. We'll now have the presentation of the POW MIA wreath by Joseph Sangermano, Commander, and James Shockley, Adjutant, Maryland East Chapter of ex-POWs, accompanied by Jack Hallman, Benjamin Lewis, James Knock, Walter Webster, Frank Wright, and Robert Kurtz. They will be assisted by members of the 1st State Detachment Marine Corps League, and during the presentation, Amazing Grace will be performed on bagpipes by Larry Dunlop, Jim McClellan, Laurie Andes, and John Andes.
Well, I'm here after a fantastic Memorial Day ceremony at the Worcester County Veterans Memorial Ocean Pines, and it's really great. We're honored to have Governor Martin O'Malley, Senator Jim Mathias with us, and Jim, let me just ask you, you're from down here representing the area. I take it this been here every time. Metal on to you?
Absolutely, Jack. I just want to take a moment and say thank you to the men and women from our First Patriot, to those in the field today that allow us our freedom, those who've given it all. And I'm proud to be here with our governor in such a free state. George Hurley did a phenomenal job talking about Maryland's contribution to America's freedom, and I'm most proud to be here and thank the committee for enabling us to happen again.
That's great. And Governor O'Malley, it's great to have you visit us here. I guess this is your first time to see what a great job these folks do putting on this ceremony here. And you mentioned you had family involved, your dad was in the Air Force, and give us a few thoughts on today's ceremony.
Sure, and this is my first time here, but Senator Mathias told me what a great
off TV screen
service this is. And so on days like this, I mean, I think of my father who flew 33 missions over Japan, no longer with us, but certainly the gift that he gave along with everyone who has ever put on the uniform of our country to be able to give us the freedom to make our country a better and safer place for our kids. That's what I remember on Memorial Day, and this was a beautiful ceremony. George Hurley's short history of military history of Maryland in defense of the United States of America was really phenomenal. I got a stack of reminds me. You promised me you'd give me a copy of it so I can put it on the state website.
Down there more today, and I think I learned it for several years. But thank you very much. We appreciate you both being here.
Oh, there he is. There's George. Here he is.
George. Now wait, you're on camera, George.
Speak up, George.
Come right in here. Before you do this, let me just ask you. Now I looked at your deployment. Korea, Japan, the Philippines, all names we know. But you not only gave such a great history lesson, I wish I was in the class, but it was from the heart, and it looked like it really meant a lot to you to give this service today at the Memorial Day ceremony.
I taught chemistry. I just think Maryland's always been shortchanged in the history.
I think they got shortchanged that they should have had you as a history teacher as well as chemistry. Thank you very much for your service, and thank both Governor O'Malley and Senator Jim Mathias for your being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're here at the end of a fantastic and really very moving Memorial Day ceremony. And Ron, Master of Ceremonies, people take that job for granted, but believe me, I know it's not easy. You did a fantastic job. What was your thoughts? I guess a little relief now that it's over.
My main thought was how hot it was today, but we had great weather for the 7th year in a row. And we were just absolutely thrilled at the crowd that we had today and the participants, as well as many, many volunteers that make this possible. But today's program, of course, is really the credit really needs to go to the chairman of the committee, Marie Gilmore, who's standing right next to me, and she did an outstanding job.
Well, I use that as my segue because you're absolutely right, Marie. I think, Marie, you'd be sweating even if it was 10 degrees out. This is a tough job to get all these people together, and you did it fantastically. It was a beautiful ceremony, and I bet you're really thrilled.
I am thrilled. I think it was a beautiful day, a beautiful ceremony, and my hat goes off to my co-chair, Mary Adair. I don't know where she is. She's probably out there directing things a little bit more. There she is under the other tent. Maybe you can catch her later. But I tell you, we had the guidance from Roseanne Bridgman up above, and I thank her every year for the beautiful weather. And I think that George Hurley did a fabulous job with his speech was wonderful, and it was to the point. It brought it right home to the state of Maryland, which was just great. And I just thank all the people who participated and put on such a wonderful program for us.
Well, it was great. And Ron and Marie, we thank you again for all you've done. And I make a comment that a lot of these stories are on the Worcester County Veterans Memorial website. And they are great. It's great reading through some of the folks that are here locally that have been prisoners of war, served overseas. It's a place you ought to check out. And I think do you remember the website address?
I do. It's www.opvets.com.
Well, check it out. You'll enjoy it. And thank you again. We hope you enjoyed the ceremony. Don't forget our vets. This is not a one-day thing. When you're out there and you're looking at the high price of gas, maybe remind you of the high price many of our veterans paid for freedom. Again, thank you. Hope you enjoyed this wonderful Veterans Day, Memorial Day ceremony. And thank you again. This is Jack Barnes for Focus on the Pines.